Oh, something's happening. Okay.
You're live.
Oh, hey. Great.
Hi, Barb.
Hey, Sammy. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Welcome to Known Live. Forgive us for the technical difficulties that we're having here. We are using a brand new tool, which is called StreamYard. And this is my first time hosting an event. So, for all of you who are listening, please forgive me if I mess up. We're going to be pivoting as we go along and figuring out new ways to connect with the known community. So I want to welcome Sammy Williams of Sam's Word. And I have actually been waiting for months for this particular presentation. She was supposed to do it live at Known, and we ended up having to cancel it because of the quarantine. And we finally got a time where we could have her nailed down. And the reason I'm interested in it is because I myself am an entrepreneur. I have a podcast. I've just recently started repurposing it. And actually, Sammy's the one that got me onto Instagram and starting to share some of my stuff there. So I can't wait to hear what she has to say. Before you go into that, Sammy, I'd like to hear a little bit about you. I see from your shirt, you're an entrepreneur. And I want to hear about being an entrepreneur, about your company, Sam's Word, what it kind of value you bring to your clients, and then who's an ideal client for you? Like, what are the kinds of problems that people have that you're able to solve for them?
Excellent. Well, first, Barb, thanks for having me. Known, glad to be here. Wish we were in person like we originally planned, but we're pivoting, right? 2020 is the year to pivot. So this is what we're doing. Hey, Rick. And so I am the president and CEO of Sam's Word, which is, I call myself a content strategist because I own a company. I can call myself what I want. So I'm a professional business writer. So I primarily help businesses and entrepreneurs with their content development needs. I say I want my clients to focus on what's important to them, which is running their business, and not really get in the weeds and worry about the writing and the words because that may not be their strong suit, right? So I think delegation is key and finding the right resources to have on your team. So that's what I love to do. Writing comes easily and naturally to me. I get up and I write, and I'm writing all day long. My husband's starting to complain now, so not all day long anymore. And so some of the writing that I do is web content. I do blogs and articles, social media. I trained Barb on how to use Instagram, and I think she's doing great now. I remember our first session when I went to train Barb. She knows she's sitting there with her laptop on Instagram, and I'm like, we don't do that. No. So have you stepped away from the laptop, Barb?
I do not ever use the laptop for Instagram anymore. I do use it to create Canva things, however, because I find Canva easier on the computer than on the phone, but I do use it on the phone sometimes too.
I'm glad you mentioned Canva too, because our deck today, we're going to talk about a little bit of Canva, how we can use Canva to repurpose the content that we're creating. And we're doing a lot of experimenting. So I'll tell you, I shared it on my social media for those who are following me. I woke up this morning and said, let's rehearse this deck. Let's get it prepared. And I opened it up and realized I only had 10 slides. And I was like, that's not enough. So now we're up to 20. So we're all going to see this content for like the first time, and we're going to go through it, and we're going to really understand how to repurpose it. And so my company, Sam's Word, that's what I do. I do a lot of training. I do my workshops and webinars, a lot of webinars now. And I do one-on-one training like I did with Barb, and I go and I teach you individually, develop a curriculum for you and your needs. Like Barb said, I just want to know how to post. I don't care about the IGTV. I don't care about Insta stories. So I didn't teach her that. But if you're ready, you come back. And then I do writing. I also help with resume writing and LinkedIn profiles. Before the coronavirus really hit, there was a lot of need for the LinkedIn profiles. And the LinkedIn profiles kind of died down, but there's a heavy need for resumes. And when the coronavirus first hit, a lot of the need came from nurses. And they were all complaining about their current work environment. And they knew that, one, the hospital is always hiring. So they're looking to either move into a new position now or after the pandemic, where they're not going to be so much on the front lines in whatever role they were in. So I've been doing a lot of resume writing. I have some students from associates up to PhD that I help with editing and crafting their academic assignments. So the writing that I do kind of goes, left and right, depending on who my client is and what they're looking for. But they come to me and they keep coming back because I love it. I get good results. If it's not results driven, what's the point? So when you talk about adding value, that's why my clients come to me. People go to their website, they can quickly understand from the copy that's on their website, the products and services they provide. I write a resume, my clients get a job, and now they come back every about 2 to 3 years to redo their resume so that they can go to the next job. Because, people don't stay in jobs that long. So that's how I know that it's effective and it's working and it's bringing value.
Wonderful. Great. I am ready to see your presentation. Are you ready?
Okay. Yes.
Okay, so we're going to set it up so that people can see both your PowerPoint presentation and you and I, but I know that you're not going to be able to see us. So
No.
if people have comments or questions, I'll put them on the screen so you can see them, or I will tell them to you verbally. You ready?
Perfect.
Let's do it.
So we are going to talk about repurposing your micro content, right? So here's my little bio slide that I like to include. Barb just did the little informational thing. So that's what you're going to see up here, right? So the top right is the type of writing that I do. I'm also the current entrepreneur in residence at the New Haven Free Public Library. So people, thank you. Thank you, Barb. So I provide office hours every Tuesday and Thursday, Tuesday from 2 to 4, Thursday from 4 to 6, for aspiring or current entrepreneurs and small business owners who may have some questions about starting or running a business. So that's Tuesdays and Thursdays through the New Haven Free Public Library's website. You can schedule a consult. You can book it in advance every Tuesday, Thursday. We also provide weekly presentations geared towards entrepreneurs and small business owners. And that schedule of events is on the library's website as well. And then on the bottom left are some of the workshops and trainings that I do, like we're here today doing. And this list keeps growing. So yesterday I was with the CEDF in Meriden, and I did a PowerPoint on pivoting your business during COVID-19. Very relevant. And I know Known has a new pivot series, right, Barb, that you guys are doing?
I was just going to say, while you're saying that, I want to give a plug to that. So we're going to start a series called Pivot Talks. It's going to kick off next Wednesday, May 13th at 10 a.m. And we are lucky enough to have coach and consultant Bob Bishop with us, and he's a growth consultant. So he specifically specializes in helping businesses who are ready to grow move to the next level. And so he'll be helping us with that series. But we'll be starting next Wednesday. And what he's going to do is take his canvas that he uses, which is called From Survive to Thrive, and apply it to Known co-working. Because as you know, we've had to do a major pivot because our co-working business has gone entirely online. So hope all of you will join us for that. And we have Jennifer Brennan, who's just joined us. So hi, Jen. So glad you're here. All right, go ahead there, Sammy. Thanks for that.
Yes, so this list will continue to grow. People say, Sammy, can you do a presentation on X, Y, and Z? And I say, absolutely. And then I add it to my list here, and then I create a deck like I did between the last couple of days and this morning and get her done. And I have my contact information on the bottom right here. So my website, samsword.com, writers at samsword.com. Find me on Instagram at sams_word. Facebook, I'm at Sam's Word LLC. And on LinkedIn, you can find me at Business Writers. So we're here to talk about content, repurposing content, but what is it, right? Let's start at the nitty gritty. What is content? And those of you who know me know I'm New York to my core, so I love this picture. But as it shows, content is everywhere. And just looking at this picture alone, you can see the content, right? The content could be the picture of the billboards. It could be the content within the billboards. What is there a message on the billboard? That street sign, Broadway, is content. The moving cars is all content. If you take a video of that, guess what? Video is content, right? So content is really everywhere. And once you understand that, you get into the mind of a content writer and you understand how I can take that little nugget, repurpose it, and share it, right? And I do it a lot. As the entrepreneur in residence, I do a lot of consultations on the phone, and I find myself dropping these gems while I'm on the phone, and I tell the client, hold on, I need to write this down because I'm going to repurpose what I just said. You're going to see that on social media. I'm going to write a whole blog about this, right? Because once you get into that mindset, you start to understand how you can captivate the content, repurpose it, and reshare it. And again, Barb is monitoring the comments. So if you have any comments, anything you want to share, you can drop those and Barb will share it with us.
And questions too. If you have questions for Sammy, feel free to just type them in.
Yes. And so when we think about the definition of content, it could vary, right? Like this one image says this is an entry 104, right? So when you think about content, you got to think about the purpose in which you're using it for. So here, where this content is ultimately going to be used for marketing purposes. So I'm using the definition as it relates to marketing and websites. So this one says is written matter, illustrations, or music offered by a website. We're in 2020, going into 2021. So we're in a digital age, right? Everything's going to be in some kind of online website format. So that's the content that we're going to be focused on. And as you see, it has different versions, right? So don't just think of content as words on paper or words on a website. It's the written matter, but it's also the illustrations, the pictures, the graphics, the music, the videos, right? All of these are different types of content that you can use within your business to market your products and services. So now we have content, right, specifically for websites and for marketing. So what is content marketing? Because that's different, right? We can just have content and then we use content to market our businesses. So when we think about content marketing, we want to specifically and strategically create, publish, and share information that we're going to use targeted our customers to build our brand and our reputation. What we put out there is an extension of our brand. So we want to make sure that we are getting visibility, we're extending our reach. Okay.
Got it.
So we got content, we got content marketing, and then that breaks it down, right? You got to keep digging a little deeper. So we start at macro, right? If there's a micro, there must be a macro. Mm-hmm. And that's, it makes sense, right? Which is what we learned in school. So let's start with the macro. So one form of macro content is long form content. Long form content is usually free and it's available online because, again, this is 2021. But it's usually a lot of content. So you're talking about a minimum of about 5,000 words. That's a lot of words. So 5,000 to 15,000 words, right? It helps you build thought leadership because you become a SME, a subject matter expert in this regard for this particular topic that you have this long form content about. It also increases your subscribers because people now want to hear more. So if you put out 5,000 words about a particular content and then say check back in a week for the next 5,000 words, it's going to build their interest, right? It's going to keep the reader engaged. When you think about 5,000 to 15,000 words, I think about authors who are writing books, right? And they may be seeking a publisher. So what they'll do is give the publisher a few chapters of the book, and they're hoping that the publisher will then sign them and they get published, right? So that's a form of long form content that you're putting out, 5,000 words, that you're hoping to see some residual income in the back end, right? Then we have white papers. We see white papers all the time. And you probably don't even realize the white papers that you see. But you'll understand it now when you're looking at this information, right? White papers are usually very detailed and they have a lot of information about a specific topic. So they take that one topic and it's very narrowly focused and it offers solutions and data, right? It's very data driven. Think about research kind of content, right? And it helps build effective lead magnets because you put it out there as if I'm an expert on this subject. I'm going to develop this white paper that goes into detail information about it, right? So those, you're really targeting your customer and your reader, because you're specifically gearing your white papers towards those people who care about the topic. And then case studies. I really like case studies because you're looking back in time. It's a retroactive analysis of a situation, something that happened already. And then what you're doing is writing up the experience. And it's really good when thinking about the reader experience, your consumer experience, and it helps them understand what their flow may be in their journey. Okay, so part of my history, right? I am a writer, but I also have a healthcare background. And in my last previous corporate position, I was a consumer experience designer, right? So as a consumer experience designer, I really had to get into the mind of the consumer. I developed journey maps. I developed the case studies, and looking at the user experience. So that's what you really want to do. Get into the mind of the user and develop these case studies. Okay. And then the case studies also show not only knowledge, but actionable information. So in your case study, you kind of have the scenario, you shape the scenario, you tell your story, and then you're also telling what you did or how you responded to whatever the issue or concern or the process, whatever it may be. And then video, like we're doing right here, right? Video is king right now. When you have video content, it's 4 times more likely to be looked at than regular written content.
Wow.
So, yeah, 4 times. I will say too, if you attended any of my other workshops, you heard this before. If you're using the video, which is preferred, you want to make sure that you're using caption on your video, because with 2 out of 3 video viewers, they watch the videos on silent. So video is king. It's getting 4 times the amount of engagement and reaction, but they're watching it on silent. So you think of people who are like on a train or bus when we could go out, and you're watching the video around other people, you don't necessarily want it loud and exposed. So they listen to it, they watch it on silent, but they're reading the captions. So if you're using video, just make sure you're using editing tool to make sure you have your captions on your video.
Can you recommend a tool, Sammy?
No.
Okay, sorry.
I don't, and I wrote one down somewhere. Someone said something, but there are a lot of tools you can use to easily edit your video and put the content.
If there's anybody who's listening who knows of a tool that can be used for that and you want to throw it in the comments, I'll make sure I share it with everybody.
That'd be cool. And if no one asks me to do a workshop on editing and adding captions, I will then know about it.
Yeah. Okay.
Do all my research. But the video is great content because it's engaging and dynamic, right? It can really help to boost the engagement of your viewers because they get to know you. They really get to see the person behind the brand, which is really important when looking to market your business. And then as you know, you can take your video, put it on YouTube, you can share it on social media. You could coordinate it with your blog posts too, really try to create a marketing campaign. So I can say, you know, I'm putting out this video, and in my video, I'm going to say, make sure you read my blog about the same topic. Or in my blog, I can embed the video at the bottom of the blog so people can see it. I can also take that video and publish it on LinkedIn. I can embed it in relevant posts. So if I'm publishing an article on LinkedIn, which is super easy to do, I can just take my video and include it there also.
Nice.
So we have our definition of content marketing. We know what it is now. But now we need to repurpose the content, right? We have our content, we created it, but now what are we going to do? Because we don't want it to just sit there. Like Barb, you have your podcast, right? You don't want your podcast to just sit there and then hope that people hear your information. You're now publishing on Medium, right?
Right. Yes.
Nice. Was it your first published article? Do you have
Actually, two? I have 2 as of Friday that I've published.
Awesome. Barb is now a writer. Yeah. Welcome to the writer world.
Thank you. And for those of you who are podcasters, I highly recommend it. I just took, you know, what I had and I turned it into written content. I do have to rework it quite a bit. And what's interesting is I get a lot of new insights as I'm going through the editing process. And I
Yeah.
feel like my what I have to say comes out much more clearly when I rework it.
Oh yes. I actually love editing. I tell my writers, get the words out there, write the
Yeah.
content, and then spend your time in editing. Let's
Yeah.
make sure it's really refined.
Yeah.
Barb, where can they find your articles in your podcast?
So my podcast is called Fragmented to Whole: Life Lessons from 12-Step Recovery, and it's really available on just about every single podcast outlet that there is. And medium.com is a website that's really by and for readers. Anybody can read up to 3 articles per month for free. If you're a member, it's only $50 for an entire year, and there's literally millions of pieces of content about any area that you can possibly imagine. And you can search for my name, Barb Nangle, or the first one is about stopping negative thought loops, and the second one is about learning how to take control over your life, but this one little adjustment that you make. But thank you for asking.
You're welcome. Why not? And when you're checking out Barb's articles on Medium, make sure you, after you read it, go to the bottom and give her a clap. Okay. So you want to repurpose your content. What does that really mean? Right? Like Barb just said, she's doing a lot of readjusting what she has. So you're reformatting your content, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you have a blog, you have to reformat that if you're going to turn it into a video, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to reformat that if you're turning it into a social media post. You can't have all that information, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you think about that one blog too, and you think about a social media post, think about how much content you can have in that one blog if you're turning into social media posts, right? So you're reformatting the content for those different mediums, including Medium, right? You want to make sure that your content is relevant to that platform that you're going to put it on. Make sure that it's relevant to those readers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't just put it there. You have to understand how readers are digesting that information on that particular platform.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're repurposing, it helps you appeal to more audiences. So,
Mm-hmm.
like Barb's podcast, not everyone is listening to podcasts. So, if you just leave it there, you're not engaging a whole lot of the population. But then, if you then take that podcast and you put it on Medium, you put it from Medium to social media posts, you make a video about it, you're now extending your reach and you're getting a broader audience.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. And actually, I want to say something about you were talking about you have to tailor the format of your content. So, one of the things I did before I published on Medium was I read a lot of articles on Medium, including articles about how to publish on Medium. And one of the things I noticed is that the really popular articles have lots of subheadings and lots of white space in between. So, they make it really super easy for the reader. So, I made sure to format my articles in that same manner.
Yes. So, and that's good because a lot of people are scanners. They're
Right.
not readers.
Including me.
Me too. I'm a scanner, right?
Yeah.
And then if I find it like really, really good, I may go back and read it
Yeah.
again.
Me too.
And I
Exactly.
have people who say, "Oh, Sammy, I know you love to read because you're a writer." No, I love to write. Okay, they're two different things. I love to write. I don't have time to read. If you look around my office, I got tons of books right now, but I
Mhm.
don't have time to read them. But I love to write. So you want to make sure that you're writing
Mhm.
with your reader in mind, knowing a lot of people are scanning that content.
Mhm.
Okay, and white space is so important.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
so then you may be saying, but why should I be repurposing my content? Right? I already did it. I already have my podcast. So why am I going to repurpose it? And one is because it is a very creative and strategic marketing tool that you're going to use to save time in your resources because time is something that is invaluable. We don't have enough of it. Okay. And you're going to maximize your valuable content. What you have in your podcast is awesome. Let's maximize it. Let's get it the most exposure as possible. And when you do that, you're also increasing your digital footprint and your SEO because you're getting people re-engaged on your page. If you have the blog, you have it on your website, you have it on your social media, that's all extending your digital footprint. right?
Those
So
who don't know what SEO is, because I know sometimes people don't, it's search engine optimization.
yes, that is the search engine optimization. That is getting your relevant content at the top of the Google page, right?
Mm-hmm.
You want, they say if you're on page 4 of Google, you might as well just wrap it up. So
Exactly.
you want people to, when they're searching those keywords, your SEO needs to be strong. So when they're searching the keywords, it's bringing it back to your content, wherever that may be. And then again, you talk about your hashtags. Include your hashtags because those are searchable. They also increase your SEO and it gets you on found on Google, right? So repurposing the content helps you stretch and diversify your content. What I have in my blog that I put out, when I'm now making that into a social media post, it allows me to dig a little deeper and go into more detail about that content. I'm diversifying it because I'm on different platforms. I can angle it a certain way depending on the reader on that platform using that content.
Mm-hmm.
So I can go into deeper detail, right? I put out a webinar, a workshop, a blog about resume writing. But then what I can do is take my resume writing blog and then specifically focus on the executive summary. The executive summary is only one part of the resume, a small part of the resume, but it's so important on the resume. So I can talk about why we shifted from having an objective. Do not put an objective on your resume. It should be an executive summary. Don't title it, just type it at the top, right? So we're not doing objective. So we can talk about specifically why we shifted from an objective to an executive summary on a resume, and then what an executive summary is and the purpose of it, right? So that's how I'm taking that one element of a whole blog, 400 words, 500 words, whatever it may be, and I'm going into much deeper detail into that one specific element, okay? So repurposing the content, you're not reinventing the wheel. We already talked about we don't have time. Nobody has time to reinvent the wheel. Don't start from scratch. You already have content. Repurpose it, invigorate it, and make it better and more attractive to different markets. And that's how you find new ways to reach and expand your audience. So I grabbed these from Google this morning while I was trying to build out my deck more. And these are two different definitions of micro content. Because when people think about micro content, they could have various different definitions. So Jacob Nielsen says that it should be short content like headlines that can be immediately clear and inviting to the reader. And it should still make sense when it's removed from the original context. So think about how I just pulled out that executive summary and it still makes sense, right? I'm just going deeper, but it still makes sense. Jim Burns says that micro content needs to be short content in any formal format, but it delivers standalone information for many functional use cases, as well as source modules for new content assets. Okay, so you're really talking about taking your content, your original content, and dissecting it. All right, and you want to go to its lamest form. We're going to the nitty gritty about one particular thing, and it's going to be quick. Okay. So when you think about micro content, these are some of the forms, right? We have blogs. Blogs are good because they are quick and easy readers and writers. You can write a blog so quickly. You can read it. Talk about scanning, right? I put out a blog, my newsletter every Wednesday, and I make sure that I design it with engagement in mind. I design it knowing that people are going to read this quickly, knowing people don't want to spend a long amount of time reading my blog. And what you realize too is, like on Medium, when you open an article, it tells you how many minutes it will take you to read the article. And that helps people understand if I'm going to really scan this or if I'm going to pocket this away and read it at another time because I don't have 12 minutes to read this article, right? So you have your blog. The blog is also easy to share. When people share your blog, it helps with your backlinks too. So the backlinks bring people back to the original source. So to your website or to your blog host, wherever you have it. And I find the blogs to be a good relationship building tool too, because I put out my blog on Wednesdays and I usually get a few emails back, either responding to the blog or asking more questions or telling me they can't wait for the next one. I know. Um, and yesterday's blog was really good. Y'all really should go to salesword.com, go to my blog. My writer did an excellent job with an email sample, how to structure and format an email. You're gonna love it, right? So people love the engagement. And when you think about blogging, you shouldn't think about your writing and putting on a place on the website and then walking away. You should keep referring back to that blog. In my blogs, I refer back. Those are the backlinks. I refer back to previous blogs that I wrote. So, and it kind of helps to also establish you as an expert in this field, because it indicates you've already written on this topic. All right. You start to establish your scholarship and your validity to even write about a topic. Okay. Micro content can also include templates and checklists. These are so cool, and I actually want to start using these more. These are actionable items. So you give your viewer, your reader, a checklist, and they check it off, right? The templates, they do it as they go. It's reusable for the user because they're constantly referring back to it. So you also want to make sure that it's branded well. And checklists are cool because they're easy and cheap. Right? So you create a checklist in minutes. You can offer it as an email subscription. We've all seen it, right? Click here to find 4 easy ways to build a resume. When they click here, they give you their email address. They're now subscribed to your mailing list. So you both win. It's a win-win. You have someone added to your mailing list, and they have a free checklist. And there's different ways to promote it. You can put it on your blogs. You can talk about it in your videos. Definitely put it on your websites and your social media. I use Linktree on social media. And Linktree allows you to put multiple links. So you can put a link to your free checklist on your Linktree. So if they go to your Instagram, your Facebook, whatever it be, and they click on it, they can click on the option to get the download and give you your email address, their email address, and it's win-win. Infographics. So I actually love infographics, and I also love that my writer makes them really cool. She makes really dope infographics, and they look great. And it's easy to do, it's easy to use. And what you use the infographic for is to take that macro content and find a way to visibly show it in a more aesthetic way that people can grab the information. So it shows a lot of information and usually has a lot of data and details, but it makes the information easily digestible.
I just want to pipe in here and say that I'm a very visual person, and I hear that from a lot of people. And that sometimes when people read something, they don't really quite understand it. But when you put it into an infographic, they're like, oh, I get it. So I think, that this is an excellent way to appeal to even more users. And I think you can even complement your written material with a great infographic.
Yeah, my writer, she does my blogs. She will often put an infographic. So instead of having a regular blog with content and paragraph structure, she'll use an infographic and have the same information, but it's structured as an infographic. So it makes it a lot easier to read. Again, the scanners, you're usually using numbers and percentages and statistics, and it makes it a lot more easier to read and consume. And then you talked about the white space. So you want to make sure you're using the white space. You can have a title, you can have subject titles. And again, we have the backlinks. So your infographic is going to be backlinked to your website. Okay. And
so,
I like
question. So Hashim Amin says, I don't get it. So I'm not sure what it is that Hashim doesn't quite get. So Hashim, if you could add more to your comment and let us know. And then I don't know if you can see the comment. I don't think you can, Sammy.
no.
Rick says, Rick, who is a marketing and brand specialist, says, can't wait to share this with clients. So many can benefit from micro content strategy.
Thanks, Rick. You are right. And matter of fact, we're here because Rick pulled me aside at note and said, Sammy, you think you could do something about micro content? So here we are. And I think, helping people understand how to develop a strategic micro content strategy is really going to be good because people, a lot of companies, they kind of just put information out and they don't have a strategy behind it. But when
Okay.
you think about developing campaigns where you have your blog, where you have a book coming out, I have a lot of people who are writing books. So you
Mhm.
have a book coming out, you can think about your micro content strategy that you're going to use to promote that book. And there's
Okay.
a lot of different ways you can do that.
So Hashim has written back and says it's the infographics part. So is there any chance you have an example of an infographic here in this PowerPoint presentation that you could show?
I'm glad you asked. Yes, I do.
Oh, goody. Look at that. Look at that. Okay. I hope that helps, Hashim. If not, make sure that you send us a message and we'll try to get some clarity. These look like templates that from PowerPoint. I've seen these. I think HubSpot puts these out. Is that what these
This
are from?
this is from Canva.
Oh, no kidding. Okay.
So Canva has a lot of different tools and content that you can create, but they have all these templates. So you can search for like healthcare infographic, automobile infographic, um, the housing market and real estate, right? You can search specifically for what you're looking for, or you can just browse. So when I went into Canva this morning, I browsed, and these are examples of the
Great.
templates that they have available, and they have tons of them. And
Oh,
what you do is you go in and you edit them to make it fit your brand. So
right.
I would like this one on the top left. These colors mostly fit my brand. I don't have to change anything here. But if I wanted to use this green one on climate change, I would change those colors to match my brand identity
Mm-hmm.
and keep it consistent. And then you see how they have the white space. A lot of it is using icons
Mm-hmm.
and then content next to it,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like this with the percentage when you talk about educating kids. So
Mm-hmm.
you have 700,000 kids and you have images, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's using that, the graphics to share the story, to share the content.
Right. Yeah. And there's a good use of color to shift the attention. So I just want you to know Hashim says that's helpful. Thanks. So I'm glad we answered your
Awesome.
question there. So I
Awesome.
just want to give you a heads up. We have 20 minutes left. I'm not sure how far you into your presentation, but we're 2/3 of the way through. So,
Okay.
okay.
That's fine by me. Yes. And
All
again,
right.
any questions or comments, throw them in there and Barb
Will
will
do.
manage those. So we talk about repurposing the content for different mediums. So here's an example of the blog post, and then how you can take that blog post and strategically dissect it to go to all these different mediums. And we talked about repurposing and reformatting. So you have that blog post, it turns it into a checklist. I also have an example of that I'll look at. You can turn it into a slide share on LinkedIn. I have a page
What
of
is
that.
that?
I
What's a
have a
slide
page.
share?
SlideShare allows you, we have a whole slide on that. We'll talk about SlideShare.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
The podcast, we're all familiar with podcasts, right? But we talk about that checklist is going to be a bulleted form of the podcast. It's going to be a bulleted form of your SlideShare or your video, your email series, right? I really like the idea of an email series. I actually have one coming out soon on the email writing, right? So we have one on email writing basics, right? Next week, we're going to go more into email writing etiquette. Then we could go further, right? So you have an email series and you'll say, check back next week while we talk about, right? And that's all coming from that original blog post. And then your ebooks. Ebooks are also something that you can create on Canva. So I think Canva is a really cool graphic design tool. I am not a graphic designer or artist at all, and I'm not creative, I'm very technical, and I'm able to go into Canva and create different documents, okay? And so this is what it looks like. You have your core content, right? Your white paper, your research paper, whatever it may be, and then you're going to break it down. So when you break it down, you then have your infographics, the slideshow, the blog content, and you can go a little deeper with that and have micro content. Think about your social media posts, right? Especially Twitter. Those are very abbreviated kinds of content. So it could be the written copy, imagery, or video, but it's usually going to be about 10 to 30 seconds or less in this quick, small bursts of information. So this is the example of the checklist and Canva. And so you can go in and you can modify this however you may want. And there's different types of checklists. You can think about your content and throw it in there and what you want people to accomplish in a week, in a month, in a quarter, right? And again, these are easily designed in Canva. These templates currently exist. You just go in and you easily modify it. We looked at the infographics. Okay, there's tons of different infographics. And Barb, here is your slide share picture.
Okay, great.
So this is a LinkedIn tool that allows you to gain credibility on a subject. And for viewers, you can just go in and you can take PowerPoint courses, presentation courses. You can learn about different topics through SlideShare. If you're an influencer, if you are a subject matter expert, a SME, then you can upload your PowerPoint. I can take this PowerPoint and upload it right into LinkedIn. And then I can share that link. It becomes part of my portfolio. So I can share my portfolio link from SlideShare to show my experience and the presentations that I put together on the various topics. So your SlideShare can include presentations, those infographics, different documents like white papers, and even videos. So again, when you're labeling these, you want to make sure you're using keywords because they're searchable. Use hashtags if you're able to, if you can find space in there. You don't want to use too much words. We talk about the white space. You want to use the imagery to attract people, right? So make sure that your cover photo is specific and interesting. It gets people's attention. So that's SlideShare, and this is in LinkedIn.
So Rick says he's glad to learn about SlideShare.
Awesome, Rick. I actually put up one slide, one presentation about a few months ago just to play with it. You know, we got to experiment, right? So I have something on it. I think it's my Instagram for Business workshop, that PowerPoint that's on here. And it was easy to put up. And, you know, I just put in some like keywords, some searchable items for people, you know, the PowerPoint description. What is the workshop description? What they can expect. But it's a way for you to build your digital portfolio, expanding your digital footprint.
Great.
So you think about what to repurpose. So on here, what I really like are the client testimonials and the frequently asked questions. People don't often think about repurposing testimonials, but it's a way to easily brag about your business, right? So you take that testimonial, you turn it into a social media post. You're expanding it. You're putting your own good information out there. You can take that and put it on your website. You can have a page of testimonials. You can have pop-ups of testimonials that show up on your website. Your frequently asked questions. What are people frequently asking you about your product, your service, how you do things? Take those frequently asked questions and turn it into micro content. Put it on social media, make a blog about it. Okay, because people, if one person asks, there's other people that have the same questions. So give them that information, let them know about it. This one I really like too. We have this live webinar today, right? But there's a lot of different topics within this webinar that I can pull out, repurpose it, and make it on an online course. You can use like Kajabi or Teachable, where people can upload the content, and then they say, week 1, I'm going to learn about this. Week 2, now I'm going to learn about that. So you build the curriculum from your webinar, from your presentations, turn it into an online course, and guess what? You get paid for that.
Great.
So micro content in a nutshell. You want to use high quality pictures and videos. It has to have creative copy. You want to keep it extremely brief. We're talking 10 to 30 seconds and people are done. Use the short and sweet headlines to get people's attention. Easily know what the content is going to be about, and that's how you grab them, okay? And so that is micro content and repurposing it in a nutshell. So now it's your turn. Barb, what are you going to do with your content now?
Well, I think like my last article in Medium, I did include an infographic. And in fact, Bob Bishop, who's going to be doing the Pivot Talks kickoff next Wednesday, the 13th at 10 a.m., I was in a meeting with him and he presented a graphic that was really similar. And I took the idea because I realized I have a lot of complicated ideas that I want to get across to people, and this graphic really helps them. But what I haven't done is use just the infographic alone to put out. So I think I'm going to do that. I love the idea of a slide share as well. What I just thought from you is the client testimonial. So I get text messages and emails from people about my podcast on a fairly regular basis. And for a while, I was putting their comments on my website, but it never occurred to me that I would put them on Instagram.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I absolutely want to do that. And I feel like I want to start putting them. The other thing I created was an email list. I used the opportunity of writing my first piece on Medium to create an email list for people. And I said to them, it's a newsletter right now. I don't know what it's going to contain, but for now, it's going to contain an announcement every couple of weeks when I publish something. And I think that I can now start putting like testimonials in the bottom of or not necessarily in the bottom, but in the newsletter, so that I can say, this is what people are sharing. And the other thing I'm doing in the newsletter is I say, like, here's the link to the piece. Here's an excerpt of the piece on Medium. Here's the link to the rest of it if you want to read it. And then if you're more of a listener, here's the podcast episode that it came from, so that I'm always doing that.
And that's awesome. And that's really thinking about those different audience types and how they prefer to get the information.
Right.
So I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, thank you. That was, really helpful. So for those of you who are listening on Facebook, we'd love to take your questions, hear your comments for Sammy. So specifically, how do you think you're going to use what you learned here to repurpose your content? What's one or two ideas that you feel are like really easy to do? That's the thing, is you gave so many ideas and some of them are just super easy to do.
Yeah.
So let's see. Rick says Creative is going to have more webinars and videos that can be repurposed into smaller content chunks. Right. Okay, great.
I like that, because once it's built, all you have to do is pull from it. With my content writer, Yarnique, shout out to Yarnique. What I do, like, when I'm done with this, I'm gonna email her. I create my decks and I send it to her, because it's her job that I pay her for to pull out all that information and repurpose it, make it into a blog, make it into a social media post. How else can we share that? And so once it's built, it's the work is done. Most of the work is done.
Right.
Now you have to reformat it for those different platforms.
Right. So let me ask you a question. Are you going to take this recording and chop up any of the pieces from this and then put it out somewhere? And if so, what are you going to do? And where are you going to put it?
Yes, we will be doing that. Yes, the micro post, get it out there. Quick and easy, 10 to 30 seconds. We will be doing that. And when I say we, I mean Yarnique. So Yarnique, thanks, Jen. Yarnique will be, she's a creative, right? So I'm technical, she's a creative. She uses all these fancy tools like Adobe and stuff. And so she will edit the video content, and she will take a piece of it and put it on social media. So for me, my social media is Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. I use a tool, Zapier, so it integrates from it integrates Instagram to LinkedIn. Whatever I post on my Instagram will be zapped over to LinkedIn. So when I post, I also use Planoly to schedule my post, or Yarnique does. So when Yarnique schedules it into Planoly, it's going to automatically hit those 3 platforms. So that's where you can look for this content: Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. It may show up in a blog too. Our blogs are getting very innovative.
Yeah, Rick says Known should repurpose this too, and I have no doubt that we will. And Juan says, "Get us Known," which is, that's what we're doing here.
Our job.
So I actually would like I do have a question for you about some of the stuff that you just said, and then I'd like to take a couple minutes for you to talk about these tools that you were talking about, because it sounds like if you're going to repurpose your content, it would be helpful to make use of some of these tools. Maybe not immediately, but eventually. So here's my question: is I understand, like, LinkedIn is much more business oriented than, for example, Instagram. And then Facebook maybe kind of in between, depending on whether you have a page and a group, which I'm just starting to understand the difference between all these things.
Mm-hmm.
So you say you create content and you zap it from Instagram over to LinkedIn. Is it exactly the same content, or is it tweaked in any way to cater to the needs to that particular audience?
It's the exact same content.
Okay.
So now if I wanted to create content specific to LinkedIn, that would be probably an article. So I would go into LinkedIn and publish an article, and that would be specifically for LinkedIn, but then I would take that article and repurpose it and put it on the other platforms.
Okay, so you would chop it up into pieces and put it on Instagram. Okay, so then you talked about
also on LinkedIn later too. So I have my big article, my macro content, I have my article, but then when I'm repurposing it, I'm sharing snippets of it on LinkedIn later.
Okay, so that I hadn't thought about, that you not only repurpose it for different social media, but even on the same social media.
On the same. And then LinkedIn too, you can just go and keep resharing. So if you publish an article, just go back to that article and push it out again. Just keep resharing it.
What would be the time interval that you would want to wait for something like that?
It depends. I have people, I've seen them do it within a day.
Really?
Okay. Oh yeah. Especially if it's something that they really want to get out there, they're like, let me push it again. Let me push it again.
Okay.
Or it could be once a week. You say maybe it didn't get a lot of views last week. Let me push it again this week.
So, okay, you have mentioned a variety of tools. You've mentioned Canva, you've mentioned Linktree, you've mentioned Zapier, and you've mentioned Planoly. So could you just we have 7 minutes left. There's no more questions right this second. But if you could just take a minute or so and talk about each one of those things for the folks who've never heard of them. I know that when I learned about Canva, it was an absolute game changer for me. And the same thing, I use Linktree because you recommended it to me. And I've actually just this morning just shifted my Linktree links because I learned from Rick from Creative how to embed my podcast right into my website. So then I changed the Linktree from Spotify to my podcast to my website for my podcast.
That's awesome, because remember our initial conversation about that was, you have all these different platforms that people can listen to your podcast. So do you want to list all of these platforms in your link tree? Mm-hmm. So having them directed to your website makes it a lot easier.
Right.
So yeah, so no may want to have me back for this one, but there's another workshop that I do on social media productivity and integration tools, because I created that because businesses should be posting at least 1 to 2 times a day on social media. Thanks, Juan. And so it's impossible to really post 1 and 2 times a day because nobody has time for that. So that's why I use these tools. So I use Canva. I start there. I use Canva to create templates for posts. So I'm not recreating every single time. So I create some templates. I put my content on there. I upload those templates, my content, into Planoly. Planoly is a content scheduling tool. So, and there's different ones. So you can Google and look at the differences between Canva and their competitors, Planoly and their competitors. I used to use Buffer to schedule my posts, but I didn't find it as user-friendly, and it had a lot of clinks to it. So I create in Canva, I upload to Planoly, and Planoly is where I put my content. So my caption that's going to go with my posts across social media, including my hashtags. I also like Planoly because I can save hashtag sets. So your hashtag should be relevant to your content, to your post. So if I'm posting about providing a webinar, my hashtag shouldn't be about resumes, right? So because when people are searching those hashtags, they're searching for a particular thing. So I built that in Planoly. I save my posts, my hashtags, I quickly insert my hashtags, and then I schedule it to the date and time that I want it to be published on Instagram. I have the paid version of Planoly, so it will go to Instagram and Facebook. With the free version, it will just go to Instagram. But through Instagram, you can have it set up so your post automatically posts to Facebook. So I post it to Planoly. I schedule it to go to Instagram and Facebook at the specific date and time, and then it will go to those platforms. Once it goes to Instagram, Zapier, which is the integration tool, zaps it over to LinkedIn. And then that post with the same content is on 3 different platforms at the same time.
Fantastic. So people have not only learned from you how to take content that they already have that's existing, or unless they're not yet a content creator and they're thinking of pivoting to that because of this new environment, they've learned not only how to take content that's already existing, but to chop it up into pieces or maybe integrate it together into a larger piece and use it in different places and different times. But they've also heard from you that there are tools that exist to make this process a lot easier. So in the last couple minutes, do you have any last words of wisdom that you'd like to share with people?
Use your time wisely.
Mm.
Invest in your business.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I'm doing, investing in my business, one was purchasing the paid programs for Canva. Planoly I pay for. Zapier is free. I don't pay for that.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's going to help maximize your in the quality, improve the quality of your post and your content, then definitely invest in your business. I'm investing in my business by shifting from writing my own blogs to having my content writer write my blogs. Okay. Also managing my social media because I also don't have time for that. So by her doing that, though, it helps me have a consistent presence on social media. It helps me have consistency in my emails. You stay top of mind because that's exactly what we need to be doing right now while we're pivoting, staying top of mind. People who are not putting out relevant content during this pandemic, you're going to be forgotten about after this pandemic.
Right.
When people need the products and services that you provide, they're only going to come if they remember you from this pandemic. And here we are. My coworker is out of his class.
So a couple of things you just said I want to just double highlight. One is to be more efficient with your time. And sometimes it makes more sense to, you said delegate right from the very beginning. Delegate tasks that someone else could easily do that. So if there's something that you can do that someone else can also do, then you should absolutely delegate that to someone else, because the things that only you can do are the things you should be spending your time on. So I feel like the theme here is work smarter, not harder. And I also like you want to work on your business, not just in your business, and only you can do that. That's not something you can pay someone else to delegate to do. So Lorena says you can outsource putting captions on your video to freelancers at Fiverr.com. Okay, also such apps. Excellent. Thank you so much, Lorena. That was really helpful.
Yes, that's what we were looking for earlier, because I don't do the captions. I can write your captions, but I don't know how to put them on the video.
Okay. Well, our time is up. I want to thank you again, and I want to give one last plug for next Wednesday at 10 a.m. Facebook Live. Known is going to be kicking off our series of Pivot Talks, and we'll be featuring Bob Bishop, who is going to be using a tool that he calls Survive to Thrive. And we'll be using, speaking of case studies, we'll be using Known Co-working as an example of a case study for how to go from survive to thrive in this entirely new environment. So thank you again, Sammy. We so appreciate your time. Thanks again for everybody who joined us. Have a fabulous day.
Having me.
All right. Take care now. Bye-bye.